Welcome to the channel. I'm James Salvatore, and next to me is the 2022 Alfa Romeo Stelvio Veloce. And if you're looking for a little bit of Italian flair at a relatively affordable price point, this just may do the trick. So in today's video, I'm going to go into detail about some of the features the car has, then I'm going to drive it and share my thoughts on it with you all. So let's get right into it. For those of you unfamiliar with the Stelvio model lineup, there are 4 different trim levels: the Sprint, the TI, the Veloce as tested here today, and the range-topping performance variant, the Quadrifoglio. The Stelvio Veloce features a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 280 horsepower and 306 foot-pounds of torque, mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission with all-wheel drive and a mechanical limited-slip rear differential. It's good for 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds and gets 22 miles per gallon in the city and 28 miles per gallon on the highway. If I was going to buy one of these, I think what would draw me in is definitely the looks. And I gotta say, this is definitely a car where when you see it in photos and you see it in person, it looks just as good. The Italians sure do know how to make a good looking design. I mean, just take a look at how distinctive the grille is, and the headlights almost look like eagle eyes, in my opinion. And the rear, in my opinion, looks just as good. A lot of these crossover, coupe SUV things, they look awkward in the back. They've definitely done a nice job with this, nice proportions. The roof line comes down with a nice transition. And if you look down here, you get these nice gloss black tailpipes and a gloss black rear diffuser that really ties the rear end together nicely. And you really do get a nice sized trunk. Even though this is like a crossover SUV, sometimes the trunks are a little bit cramped. You do have a good amount of space. You'll have to excuse my camera gear. I know it's a little messy, but you also get 2 privacy shades as well, one up here and one down here. Pretty sure this one could be removed if you needed it to. And when you get into the inside, I think everything's nicely laid out, and Alfa's put nice high quality materials where it counts, especially in a vehicle at this price point. And some people may be controversial to this, but seeing that almost all the cars I test now do have full LCD displays for the gauge cluster, I actually welcome this traditional tachometer and speedometer. To me, I feel like it just adds character to the vehicle and makes it feel more like a performance-oriented vehicle. So I don't view that as being a bad thing. You do have a driver's information center in the middle that displays the functions of the various functions of the vehicle. And when it comes to the infotainment system, you do get an 8.8-inch touchscreen display. You can also control it via the rotary wheel down here, which seems to be a little bit easier than using the touchscreen. You can see the graphics are very pleasing, and you can customize the home screen. So you can kind of like almost drag and drop things where you want them to be. You can reorder them. We're not going to do that right now. But it is pretty neat. You do have a few different gauges to look at. But one thing I will say that I'd like to see a little bit of improvement on is the touchscreen. The touchscreen is a little bit laggy and slow to respond. You're much better off using the rotary wheel. Also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capability through a wired connection as well. The HVAC controls are just traditional buttons. I actually do like that. I prefer that to having them built into the infotainment system. And down here you can see you have your electronic gear selector and your drive mode selector. And over here is where you put your phone in to wirelessly charge. Actually really conveniently located. You don't need to open the glove box to get to it. Another thing I really appreciate is that they do have the Alfa Romeo logo embossed into the headrests. I think that makes for a nice premium feel. Definitely a nice touch. And in the back seat, you can see that I just fit. I'm 6'1", and keep in mind, I have my seat up set up for myself sitting in front. So if you're going to be carrying full-size adults around, not everybody's going to fit. If you're a bigger person, it's definitely going to be a tight fit. And if you're above 6'1", my head is just touching the headliner. So if you got people that you're going to be carrying around that are 6'2", 6'3", they're definitely not going to fit back here comfortably or at all. But if you're just carrying kids around, I wouldn't worry about it. All right, first impressions driving the Stelvio. So I think overall I am liking this. I like the driving position. I like that I'm low enough to still have it feel car-like, but you know, you definitely notice that you're off the ground, and the car isn't sprung too soft, so you know, it does feel nice and sporty, which I think they're achieving what they set out to achieve there pretty well. Visibility is pretty good. The rear, it's a little bit difficult to see, but looking out the side windows, definitely fine. Looking out over the hood, I like that you look out and the hood kind of swoops down. So you're looking down on the road, and overall, just nice layout with the interior, how it's so simple. You know, it's not too busy. A lot of the times, you know, especially now with all the cars going to having these large infotainment systems, they just kind of overpower the interior. I like that this is more simplistic, you know, I like that this is more simplistic. It's not too busy. Definitely makes it feel more driver focused. And if you put the car in dynamic mode and then bump over to manual, you'll see that you have these nice aluminum paddle shifters that actually don't move with the wheel, which I like. So few cars do this. Many cars have the paddle shifters attached to the wheel. This actually has it mounted to the steering column, and just listen to that. Nice aluminum paddle shifters. Now, this transmission is a traditional torque converter automatic. It is not a dual clutch, but it still has pretty quick shift times, which I appreciate. Definitely adds you know, it makes the driving experience more fun, especially if you're looking at driving it from a spirited angle, because yeah, this is probably going to be a daily driver, you know, a commuter, but if you're somebody that likes to have a bit of fun on back roads, you want to know that you can have a decent time in this. Let's get a little acceleration in. Yeah, I mean, this thing's got some pep, you know, for a little 4-cylinder. It actually gets out of its own way. And I think what's amazing is, you know, you get a decent amount of power, but the fuel economy is amazing. I mean, to get 22 miles per gallon, in the city is great, especially seeing that we're, you know, experiencing, you know, high costs of fuel today, you know, with the shortages and, you know, what's going on. So definitely a plus. Downshifts are pretty crisp, as you could see. But put it into normal mode, it's a very refined car. You know, shifts are smooth, you don't notice them anymore. It's pretty quiet in the cabin overall. Sound isolation and deadening's done well. You could tell the suspension slacked off just a little bit to make it even more comfortable. But you know, you really do actually notice the difference between the dynamic mode and the normal mode. And coming to a stop, you do have auto start-stop technology, like a lot of cars do, and it's actually pretty smooth in this. It's not too interrupting. And when you put the car into dynamic mode and pop it into manual, the transmission's actually pretty responsive, even though it's only a torque converter. It is not a dual clutch in this car, which if you don't understand the difference, you probably wouldn't care anyways, but for those of you that know, it is a torque converter transmission, but it isn't slow to respond. Like, listen, there's the click, and that's the response. It's definitely satisfying for sure. And when you get into some stop and go traffic, we do have adaptive cruise control in this car, which is pretty good. I've just activated it here to demonstrate, and it does have steering assistance in some situations. Like right now it's taking over, it's giving me the green light telling me it's good. You can see it's coming up to a complete stop as I approach the car in front of me. And for those of you, telling me to put my hands on the wheel and put them on there. For those of you who have not had a vehicle yet that has had adaptive cruise control, it really is super helpful, especially if you spend a lot of time in traffic. I do. I personally spend at least 5 hours on the road a day commuting to my various locations, and my car has it, and it's really night and day. Overall, I think they've done a great job with the Stelvio. It really does accomplish everything it's set out to be. I mean, You get that Italian flair with the looks, you know, the interior, it's nice. They've used high quality materials where, you know, you see and feel, which I definitely appreciate. And, you know, there's something to be said for having something that's a little bit more uncommon and out of place. And that's definitely what the Alfa is. You know, when you see one of these on the road, you really do take that second glance at it because it's something different. You see tons of Mercedes, you see tons of BMWs, and you know, they don't really do much because you see them all the time. This is definitely something, if you're looking to stand out and be a bit different, I definitely recommend this. Overall, it's definitely a very practical daily driver, so there's really not many downsides to this that I see. I think the only area that I mentioned earlier that I'd like to see a bit of improvement on is with the infotainment system. I mean, yes, you do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but the touchscreen is a little bit laggy. You can get by definitely with the secondary control. That's definitely probably why they included the rotary wheel. But other than that, I don't really have any complaints on this car, and I think that Alfa's done a good job in achieving what they've set out to do with this. All right, well, I think that pretty much sums things up. If you haven't done so yet and you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss out on the next video. Before we go, I'd like to say a special thanks to my friends down at Miller Motorcars, Alfa Romeo of Greenwich, for making this video possible. They're an awesome, super helpful, friendly group of people to work with. And if you're curious, they also have their own YouTube channel. So I'm gonna leave a link in the description below to both their YouTube channel and their dealership. So be sure to check them out. And with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.